Today I've got a personal story to share related to this guy behind me that completely changed the way I looked after plants. It was the biggest light bulb moment to date that I've had around plant care, and I'm hoping that by sharing it with you, it might make a difference to your plant parent journey as well. So about 3 years ago, when I was still in my serial plant killer phase, spider plants were not easy for me to look after at all. Although it's probably hard to believe now, but this parent plant behind me, just to give you an idea of the size, it's in about a 40 centimeter pot, and actually it's super heavy. It doesn't normally live here, it actually lives outside on our back patio, but I wanted to bring it in to have it in the background to do the video because it really is just one of my favorite plants. And when it comes out in flower, it's just so pretty. But, sorry, I completely got distracted talking about the plant. So I'm still in my serial killer phase, and at this stage I've got 2 plants. I've got a very sick lucky bamboo growing in hydro, and this guy behind me. I came so close to losing it. It was down to 2 or 3 very scorched, sunburnt leaves. It was a complete disaster. I had no idea what I was doing. If you've watched any of my earlier plant videos, you might have heard me talk about the story how I kept drowning succulents over and over again. After killing at least 5 or 6 succulents, I worked out that, actually, maybe too much water is not a good thing. So then, still completely clueless, I went the other way and I started underwatering my plants. So this poor plant behind me I put it on our TV cabinet, but our TV cabinet gets the western afternoon sun, so direct western afternoon sun for about 1.5 to 2 hours depending on the season. And one more thing, so it was in direct light, it was getting underwatered, but also I had put it in garden soil because my garden outside always looked quite reasonable. I could grow garden plants, and I thought, well, if my plants are growing really well outside, why don't I take some of that soil and bring them inside? And we've got red clay here where I live. It was really so dense and thick. I don't actually even know how it survived at all. But then all I can say is that fate stepped in. By pure coincidence, I decided to put up a snake plant that was out in our garden. We needed to move the snake plant because we were doing some work, and I didn't want to lose it. So I potted up the snake plant in garden soil. Also not sure how it survived, but I wanted to put it on the TV cabinet where the spider plant was because it replicated the light that it gets of an afternoon, because just behind the TV cabinet wall, if I turn this around, you might be able to see. There it is. So just behind that wall is the garden where the snake plant came from. And I knew that if I put it on the TV cabinet, it would be getting the same light that it does when it's living outside. But that meant that I needed to move the spider plant. And by pure luck, where I moved it to, it was just, I thought it looked good there, was a filtered light location. And not surprisingly, it started to recover and do really well. So I had the snake plant sitting on the TV cabinet doing well, and then I had the spider plant sitting in a indirect but bright filtered light location starting to recover. And that was the light bulb moment. I was like, oh my goodness, Melissa, you have 2 science degrees. How did you not work this out sooner? It's about finding the right environment for the plants. Of course it's about finding the right environment. You need to match the environment where they grow in the wild. This completely random and unplanned science experiment turned out to be one of the most valuable lessons that I've learnt as a plant parent. And it's made such a big impact on how I look after my plants that I'd just like to share it with anyone who will listen. So spider plants, for example, their natural habitat is shady undergrowth in the forests, which is why when I moved it away from the direct western sun and into a filtered light location, it started to get healthier. Houseplants are just parts of nature that humans have brought inside, and they've just adapted to indoor life. And once I wrapped my head around all of that, it completely changed the way that I care for my plants. And I put on that scientist hat again, and I went into researcher mode. And so now, before I buy any plant, or if one of my plants are struggling, the first thing I do is go back to basics and I research, where does that plant grow in the wild? And then I think, okay, so what does that mean? So if you ever notice that one of your plants is struggling, maybe you can remember my spider plant story and take a moment to check, have I got this plant in the right environment? Where does it normally live in the wild? Because sometimes it can just be as simple as moving them to a different location in your house, and it can make all the difference. Please remember that you when it comes to plant care, you do not need to be perfect, and mistakes happen. And I just think it's all one big science experiment. So always be kind to yourself. Until my next video, take care, and remember, you've totally got this.